No.
All right. So we're back. The trade deadline happened, or it ended, I think like 2 days ago, I believe yesterday. Obviously some big time moves were made, signs, trades, winners, losers. So we're gonna talk about obviously like what teams or players that we think won or lost in the trade deadline. So Jake, you can start. Who is your winner of the trade deadline and why?
All right. My winner of the trade deadline is the Orlando Magic. Yes, they traded away like their whole roster and everything, but they are my winners because they got a lot of young players and assets for their future. For the Nikola Vucevic trade, they got Wendell Carter Jr. and some draft picks, which will definitely help them with their future. Wendell Carter Jr. is a good young center to have on your team and will definitely start for them, obviously. And you know, for the Evan Fournier trade, they literally just got 2 second-round picks, which that wasn't the best part. But for the Aaron Gordon trade, they got RJ Hampton and Gary Harris and even more picks. So they definitely got some assets and everything to help with their future because they're pushing for the draft lottery, trying to get that number 1 pick. So they did exactly what they had to do. And they're my winners because they built for their future and their roster is worse, so they can get that number 1 pick.
So you think as of now that they're gonna just start tanking?
Yeah, because I think with Vucevic, they're getting more wins than they wanted to. So especially with him out and Fournier and obviously Aaron Gordon, they're their best 3 players. I think they're going to go full tank mode for the rest of the year.
I think another reason why they traded away like Vucevic and Fournier is because that was their like base like formula team that they thought would go far, and obviously
Yeah, they're like
they
14
didn't.
seed. Like they're
So
doing terrible, and like
even last year they just didn't live up to like what they were supposed to. And I know it
yeah,
sucks because I'm a huge Jonathan Isaac fan. I think one day he's gonna like be in the Defense Player of the Year race. Like he's that good. And like it sucked that he got hurt. Same as Markelle Fultz, but
yeah,
yeah,
exactly.
they have a bright future.
Exactly. So like especially with the draft picks, for this year's draft, their record's definitely going to go lower. So I feel like their future is in safe hands, especially like Fultz showed a ton of potential when he was playing, and Jonathan Isaac's a great defender. So I feel like they do definitely have a great future ahead of them.
I agree. Beth, how about you? Who's your winner for this trade
All
deadline?
right. My winner of the trade deadline is the Miami Heat. And for one reason only, because they absolutely finessed the Houston Rockets.
Oh yes,
They
did.
got Oladipo for nothing. Avery Bradley is not good anymore.
He's like barely played this year, bro.
Yeah.
Like
so the guy that barely plays, and as much as I love Kelly Olynyk, he's not good. And then did they even have to throw in a draft pick?
I don't even know. I think so.
Yeah, like 1 maybe.
I think a second.
A second, so that's nothing either. So they sent 2 not very good players and a bad draft pick to get Victor Oladipo. I know he's had problems staying healthy, but Victor Oladipo is still a really good player, and he'll fit in pretty well with Jimmy Butler and what they have going on down in Miami. Now it does kind of stink that they weren't able to get Aldridge, because I saw that they were front runners for a while, and it wouldn't have made the Nets a real the team that they as good of a team that I think that they are now. But for the Victor Oladipo trade, Miami Heat are my winners.
The draft pick was a 2022 first round swap.
Oh wow. Yeah.
So not really
much.
Yeah, it was a pick just traded down in the draft.
Yeah, that's nothing.
Hey, Kyle Olynyk actually had a very good game like last night or 2 nights ago.
I saw.
Actually went kind of crazy. Go crazy.
I was like, okay.
I think Kyle Olynyk's a pretty good role player. He's not a bad guy to have.
He's a great bench guy to have.
But... Yeah, like for Oladipo.
Yeah.
Oladipo's
That's the
well, he was an all-star. Obviously,
that's
he's
the
not
best
on it.
player you're losing in an Oladipo trade. I think the Heat will sleep at night knowing that.
Yeah, he definitely were a winner. How about you, John? Who'd you pick as your winner for this trade deadline?
I was kind of leaning towards following the cost train because I think they did a lot good, but I don't like calling a winner someone who they just traded away their team to build for the future. I want someone who made a big move in contention and is trying to get their team over the top. And that's why I'm going with the Denver Nuggets. Denver Nuggets have shown some struggles this year. Obviously, they're not top dogs like we really thought they could have been, but they were just in the Western Conference Finals last year. They've got some great players. I mean, Jokic is still Jokic, Jamal Murray, and all them. And they traded for Aaron Gordon. I mean, Aaron Gordon has been playing amazing this year, obviously. I mean, he can help create shots, and he's going to be the third, maybe the fourth option in the offense, probably most likely third, but
He's an underrated 3-point shooter,
very underrated. I think
like 40%.
3-point. Yeah, I was about to say he's got it pretty close to 38%, I want to say, from three.
Last year he shot it really bad, but this year
Yeah.
he's improved
So
pretty
he
well.
elevated that, and he's just an all-around player. I kind of see him as he's someone that like always has the energy up, willing to go out and play some defense. Obviously not like a top tier elite defender, but he's not going to let someone drop 20 on him without giving it a fighting chance or anything. So I think the Nuggets are winners because they got a lot better, I think.
I agree.
Does
Aaron
that
Gordon's
make
help.
does that make the Nuggets really Western Conference contenders right now, though? Aaron Gordon, because how is he going to coexist with Paul Millsap too? Because he's solid, Paul Millsap.
No, I agree, and like I said, I don't think it puts them into like a favorite category or anything, but I think it definitely makes them more competitive for it. I mean, look how they competed for it in the playoffs last year. They do have a lot of players who can step up in big moments, as we've seen. And to say that they're not at least contenders for the West, I don't think any one team in the West is totally running away with it. And even we talked about this in our first podcast, and when we were taking our bold predictions, a lot of us seem to have that idea that those lower teams in the West could make noise in the playoffs, Denver Nuggets being included. So, I mean, it's a team that we all know could easily compete come playoff time, and they chat another piece. Do I think it makes them favorites? Do I think it secures them and secures their spot to compete for it? Who knows? I think that remains to be seen. But I think they definitely got better, and they took a step in the right direction to try to get back to where they were.
I think even before this trade, that they were still contenders. Like right now, they're set. They won 7 of their last 10 games, and they're 5th in the West. And they're tied for 5th in the West, Portland. So like they're like Aaron Gordon, I think like is gonna help them big time. He'll probably come off the bench, I assume.
Oh wait, they already
Unless they
jumped
wanna
up to
start him.
5th.
Yeah, they've been playing really good.
And weren't they like 8th, like All-Star
They're-
break?
They're on
Yes,
the
bro.
playoffs around All-Star time.
Damn.
And they've been winning a lot, bro. So I think they're like I said in the previous video that they're gonna make the Western Conference Finals again. Like I said. Anyway, so I'm stuck between 2 teams for a winner. So my 2 teams were I was gonna choose the Bulls. Obviously, they're a clear winner. They signed Nikola Vucevic, and they're amazing. But I'm going with the Los Angeles Lakers. So as of 5 hours ago, I think they signed Andre Drummond, and I know it's like a big name person. I saw an article that said Andre Drummond can give you 30 and 20 a night, but have 0 impact on the game, which I think is 100% true. He literally puts up stats, basically empty stats, but doesn't really help your team win, as seen on the Cavs and the Pistons. That obviously he's not a winner. Anyway, but I think it's gonna be so interesting seeing how LeBron and Anthony Davis do with a center that can literally just control the boards the entire game. Anthony Davis doesn't need to crash the glass to like get rebounds all the time. He can stretch the floor, like facilitate like how Anthony Davis plays. Drummond can sit down low, run pick and roll with LeBron, and basically like I said, control the glass the whole game. Obviously, they have Montrezl Harrell, who basically does the same exact thing. But I feel like Drummond obviously is a better rebounder. He's a solid defender, but his flaw is that he can't shoot. But I think this signing is basically like in response to the Nets signing Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge. They wanted to sign someone to hopefully put them over the edge and make them clear Western Conference favorites, which I think right now is between them and the Clippers. I still think the Jazz are fakers. But yeah, so I chose the Lakers basically because Andre Drummond's literally a huge part of if they win the championship this year or not.
I feel like since he's actually on a good team, that his stats will impact them because he's literally like the greatest rebounder in the league right now. And you're like what you said, his defense is like pretty good. So I think he'll definitely impact that team and will put him like over the top. Like they're already a great team, and it sucks that Anthony Davis and LeBron are currently injured right now, which is kind of hurting their record at the moment. But once they're all healthy and everything, I think they'll be good to go.
Now, the Lakers are an interesting pick for being a winner of the trade deadline because Andre Drummond's kind of a weird player. Like his stats look amazing, but his field goal percentage is pretty bad for a center. And I don't know. I don't think his stats are going to go down because of the team he's on. Because Anthony Davis is also a really good rebounder, and then LeBron also grabs a ton of boards. And you said Montrezl Harrell is a similar player to him. So I don't know if Andre Drummond kind of puts him over the edge, but I think an interest and to call them winners is kind of weird too because they wouldn't pull the trigger on a Kyle Lowry trade because of Horton Tucker that they didn't want to give him up, which is a little interesting because Kyle Lowry could have been a starting point guard for that team. And then they could have also had Andre Drummond, but they decided not to, which was kind of interesting.
See, if Kyle Lowry went there, he'd probably sign like a 1 year or Kyle Lowry's contract. I don't know what it looks like right now.
He's a free agent.
Agent right after this year.
So they would have to figure out that contract situation, which most likely they'll let him go. So it's like, say, like a half-year rental of Kyle Lowry, which because I don't think they'll re-sign him to like this major contract.
Yeah, he ask for that much money, or is he kind of at the point in his career where he's gonna settle to try to win?
Exactly.
Granted, he does have a ring behind him, but aren't him and LeBron pretty good friends? If correct me if I'm wrong. I mean, I don't know.
LeBron's friends with everyone.
Well, yeah. I mean, yeah. But I mean, say he makes a deep run in LA with them, wins the finals, or maybe they don't win one. Maybe he's at the point in his career where he likes the situation he's in and he's willing to sacrifice money in order to keep that roster together. So it's like, I feel like there would be a good chance of him resigning because I feel like he's going to be willing to take a price cut. That's just what I feel out of Kyle Lowry.
So the Lakers' future plans, obviously, like post LeBron, Horton Tucker, I think is a pretty solid part of it. He's a young player, promising. I think he'll end up like being like a 18 point per scorer, like point per game scorer, like in his prime, which like obviously like that's what they need. And the Lakers are building for the future. Like even right now as we speak. Obviously they have a bunch of young guys like Caruso, Harrell, like guys that can like literally like help Anthony Davis once LeBron retires keep winning and being successful. So I think it's smart that they didn't pull the trigger on that Kyle Lowry trade because even if like say they don't win and like you said Lowry like becomes a free agent, they can sign him to whatever contract they want because there are only two big contracts I believe are LeBron and Anthony Davis. Correct me if I'm wrong, because I'm not sure if I don't know if Montrezl Harrell has a big contract like that. Maybe I don't know. But if they have enough money, like they can still sign Kyle Lowry to a decent 2-year contract or something like that, which would definitely put them over the edge above all the other Western Conference teams.
Montrezl Harrell's contract's pretty cheap. He makes less than 10 mil.
Yeah.
He signed like a 2-year,
nice,
19 million. And honestly, I kind of agree with you not pulling the trigger because Horton Tucker's only 20 years old and he definitely has a lot to improve. And I feel like the Lakers don't know what Kyle Lowry wants to do. Maybe he still wants to get paid a lot, or maybe he does want to ring chase. I feel like no one really knows that at the moment.
Facts. All right. Anything else about winners of the trade deadline? I was gonna do those Bulls, but nah. All right. So obviously there were winners, but there were a bunch of teams or players that didn't really end up too well after this trade deadline. So, John, I'll start with you. So, who is your trade deadline winner? Who is your trade deadline loser? I'm going crazy.
All right, for this, as much as I would rather take a team direction, I am going to go player, and I'm going to go with Lonzo Ball. I've always been a big Lonzo Ball fan, as many of you guys probably know. I used to always mimic his shot while shooting around. I'm a big believer in this kid. I really am. I think he's been playing very well, and I think he could very well be either a great option off the bench or a great third or fourth option on a team that can make a run. That's how I see him. And Pelicans have some talent around them, but they haven't seemed to figure it out. I mean, I feel like towards the end of the season last year when Zion came back, like things were kind of booming. And it's like, wow, the future of this team with Lonzo throwing lobs to Zion, with Brandon Ingram playing like all together, it seemed like inevitable that they were going to figure it out. But they've kind of failed to do so. And I feel like Lonzo kind of wants out of New Orleans. That's just kind of the vibe I get from him. And obviously his name was tossed around with going to Chicago even, which I think would have been a pretty good fit for him. Would have loved to see him come to Boston, but I mean, talks weren't really there for that. Yeah, I think he kind of expected to be traded. I think he kind of wanted to move on and it didn't happen. So I'm claiming Lonzo Ball as the loser of the trade deadline because he's still stuck in New Orleans.
Yeah, New Orleans should be better than what they are. They have 2 all-stars and like Lonzo Ball, who's a great role player. Steven Adams, great role player. But yeah, Lonzo Ball should like request a trade very soon because he's wasting his career in that.
Imagine him on a contending team.
Oh yeah.
Like his playmaking and IQ is so like
his
good.
defense is
His ability to facilitate a team is like such an underrated part of his game that like, because it's stuff that doesn't show up on the stat sheet. Like just the way he can control the tempo, the way he gets out on fast breaks and just moves the ball. It's like almost like what he was doing at UCLA, but it didn't transfer over to the Lakers, so people kind of forget about it. But I mean, he's without a doubt one of the smartest basketball players, I think, in the league. I mean, it seems to be pretty well accepted throughout the league.
Johnson said so.
What'd you say?
Magic Johnson said he was the smartest player in the league.
Yeah, I mean, he's wicked.
Or the highest IQ.
That's a little crazy, but I like where his head's at.
Yeah, no, you know what I mean, though. He's definitely like he's not like he knows what he's doing on the court. He does, and I think he could do very well on a good team. He just needs talent around him because he's more of a facilitator that elevates the team around him. Like he's not the impact player that, oh, I want the ball in my hands for the last shot. Like he just wants to make the best play for his team every time, which is just something that I think personally is very underrated in basketball, being such a team game like it is.
Yeah, he can do everything except score. He's a great defender, an excellent passer, and he can even rebound pretty well. He just doesn't score, and that's why people don't really pay much attention to him. And it's kind of a shame because he's really good. But
even his scoring's not that bad. He's still averaging like 15 this year. I mean, if you're getting all that out of a player and he's still giving you 15 points, I mean, I feel like that's hard to argue that he's not playing well.
His shot has gotten so much better. If you compare it to like his first year in the league to now, it's like insane. And like his 3-point shooting is honestly like pretty decent, right?
Shooting like I think 40%, or maybe a little under 40%.
That's
he's definitely improved a lot.
38.5%.
That's where you'd want it from Lonzo too.
League average is like 32, 35, 32.
35 sounds about right for league average.
Yeah. And very few people shoot 30 or 40%, which is insane. So yeah, also with Lonzo Ball, that's why LeBron didn't want to include him in the Anthony Davis trade, because he knew like Lonzo Ball plays just like how LeBron plays. Obviously, like they're 2 different body sizes and like stuff. Wow. But yeah, that was tough. But anyway, so yeah, Lonzo Ball being a loser, I 100% agree with that. Bass, who'd you pick for your loser for the trade deadline?
All right, so I kind of followed John. I went the route of a player being a loser as opposed to a team. And my loser for the trade deadline is the credibility of Kevin Durant. Now, the knock about Kevin Durant is that his rings are worth less than other people's rings, and that people say that Dirk Nowitzki's one ring is greater than all of Kevin Durant's rings, or that LeBron's ring in Cleveland means a lot more than Kevin Durant's rings with the Golden State Warriors. And I get that. And like we've said earlier, this was a year that for him to prove that he can be the man on the team, even though he also has Kyrie, but it's fine to have a wingman. He can be the man on the team and go win a ring that actually means something for himself. And now that they've added James Harden and Blake Griffin and LaMarcus Aldridge, it kind of means that if they win a ring, it doesn't mean as much in a lot of other people's eyes. Now, people will say, oh, it's not Kevin Durant's fault that they traded for Harden or signed these two guys. It's not his fault. Like you can't hold that against him, but also it doesn't add anything to him. Like it doesn't make his ring difficult. It makes his ring easier. So the credibility of Kevin Durant and his career is my biggest loser of the trade deadline.
Yeah, and also as much as you can say it's not his fault because he's not the one that made the moves, you got to think there's no way he doesn't have an influence on that kind of stuff. I mean, when you have your best player, I mean, look how much people really called LeBron the GM for how long. I mean, he just anywhere he goes, he kind of has total control over the roster around him, and obviously it's well deserved out of a player of LeBron James' caliber. But Kevin Durant's literally like the face of that franchise right now. I mean, if he wants a move or doesn't want to move, his voice is definitely going to be heard because like Brooklyn's front office would be dumb not to listen to him. It's like, what does he want to win us? So like, what does he need around him to win for us? So, I mean, and obviously I'm pretty sure, correct me if I'm wrong, Kevin Durant was kind of like pushing to team with James Harden. Like he wanted James Harden in Brooklyn as soon as he wanted that trade.
I heard the same thing about Blake Griffin. He was like the biggest influence to Blake.
So yeah, I mean, yeah, he's not the one who technically pulled the trigger on the deal, and he's not the one that forced a player to sign the contract with them. But this is to go along with your point of, I agree with his credibility being lost because his influence is definitely heard and definitely part of these decisions.
For sure.
Yeah, I agree. Kevin Durant's been getting slandered ever since he went to Golden State about like him only being able to win super teams. He couldn't get it done. Even that OKC team, they were young, but they're still basically a super team.
Yeah.
Like he only, I don't want to say teams, but like it's yeah.
Not looking good for him.
But just signed with Boston instead of Golden State, and
That's also
not a problem.
That's true. That's true.
Ring with Isaiah Thomas, no one would have questioned him. Would have been great.
It would have.
All right. Collis, how about you? Who's your loser for the trade deadline?
My loser for the trade deadline is the Golden State Warriors. During the All-Star break, I think they were the 8th or 9th seed, and people were expecting them to make a move, and especially centered around Kelly Oubre because that fit hasn't worked out as what most people would have thought it would, and people thought that like they would trade him to get pieces that would fit better on the team and everything, but I don't think they made a single move at all, and as games go by, like they're getting worse in the standings. I'm pretty sure they're like 10th or 11th now. And I just feel like they made no improvement. Yes, Curry's injured, but I feel like to get them into the playoffs or even past the play-in tournament, they should have made some type of move revolving around Kelly Oubre or even someone else. I was a little disappointed with how things went, but they're my losers, and I felt like they should have made a move.
I think the Warriors are the team that's in the weirdest situation right now.
Oh,
I
I
think in the
100%
NBA,
agree.
because last year was a wash year because of Klay Thompson and Steph Curry didn't really play too much. And then this year also kind of feels like a wash year because Klay Thompson unfortunately got injured again. So I think the front office is just kind of confused as to what they want to do. So I kind of don't blame them on not making a move. Like with Klay Thompson and Steph Curry hurt, they they don't know how. Like obviously those guys work very well together and they're one of the best duos in the NBA. So they're just trying to find pieces that they think can complement that. And maybe even though Oubre's not playing well with just Steph Curry, maybe they feel he'll be a good fit with also Klay Thompson. So I think the front office is a little just kind of confused as to what to do, who to get rid of, and what to actually get in return. Uh, to see who will fit with those two guys.
Yeah, I agree. I think the Warriors are in a tough situation because, I mean, prior to Kevin Durant signing with them, they did win a ring with Curry and Clay and Draymond together. I mean, I think them three together, those are the MVP Curry years, which he was playing some of the best basketball I think I've seen in my lifetime watching him in that MVP season.
Even
So,
this year, he's been going insane.
yeah, exactly. So it's a tough situation because it's like, yeah, you want to win now. You don't want to waste Steph Curry's years. You're so used to being on top. You want to keep winning. But they kind of almost just need to hold it out and see where they're at because they don't want to make them. They're under the assumption that Klay Thompson's going to be back next year. And you're trying to build around a team of Curry, Klay Thompson, and Draymond. Those are obviously your foundation. So I feel like they don't want to make a move now that they're going to end up regretting when Klay Thompson comes back. Because it's like, oh, wow, this player probably would have fit with these three better. And now we moved on from him because we got a player that fits well with Curry alone. Almost like what Bass said about like Kelly Oubre. Maybe Kelly Oubre fits very well when all three of them are on the court together. But with Klay gone and Kelly Oubre happened to step up into that secondary role as far as guards go, maybe that's just not where he fits with the Warriors. So I think they're just in a tough situation and they don't want to mess anything up because obviously they have a chance to be right back in contention next year when Thompson comes back, I think, assuming he comes back to his normal self. So I think it's just trying not to make a move that they regret. So yeah, losers as far as making a trade and doing something big this year. But as far as the long term, I don't think they're losers at all with this.
I think next year they're going to be not like one of the best in the West, but I think they're going to be a very good team. Obviously, like Andrew Wiggins has been playing very underrated this year, putting
I
up
agree.
I think like 19 a game, which
And he's efficient.
yeah, he got
The first
slandered.
time in his career.
He got slandered early in his career for being like a bust, basically, like being like has all like the perks to be a great, but not living up to it. But he's doing very well this year, so I'm a huge Andrew Wiggins fan. But yeah, the Warriors, I don't know what to say. They're just
They are in a tough spot. They are.
they Wiseman's playing good, which is
He's solid, yeah.
like yeah, obviously Curry. It's like I think Oubre definitely should have been moved. I don't know for who exactly, but I think he should have been moved. Maybe a wing player that's good. I don't know.
Well, that's the problem is like we were saying though, you don't want to trade for a wing player and have that wing player not fit with the Curry Thompson duo.
Yeah.
And it's like, wow, well, Kelly Oubre was probably a more valuable asset than whoever they would get. And now you don't have that to use as trade bait. So I think if he's going to be on the move, it's going to be next year, probably close to deadline time when they really see what direction they're in. Because who knows? Like I said, maybe they go out and they start tearing things up, and them three together is just what they needed. So I mean, I don't think he should have been moved. I like the move a lot by the Warriors to keep it all intact.
Yeah. All right. All right. I guess I'll go. Okay. So my loser for the trade deadline was the Houston Rockets, as we've talked about earlier. Houston. I feel if
You
you're
have a problem.
if you're a Houston sports fan, I genuinely feel sorry for you. Like there's
There's
nothing
only so
going
much feeling
good.
bad you can do. I don't feel bad at this point.
Nothing good going good for Houston sports fans. The Astros literally had that whole cheating scandal. the Houston Texans quarterback is basically a sexual predator who doesn't want to be there, and then the Rockets are about 3 years ago we're in the Western. I don't know. One of those. They're in the Western Conference Finals in a Game 7, basically, like against the Warriors. Like they were at the pinnacle, just like the Texans also were at the pinnacle, and now they're just tanking very hard.
Yeah.
The the Rockets, obviously at the beginning of the year they lost James Harden. They got back not a whole lot of anything crazy, and now they lost Oladipo, who was basically a star player, and they got back, like we mentioned, a whole lot of nothing. Obviously Harden didn't want to be there. PJ Tucker also didn't want to be there because the organization just isn't like good anymore. Like they just lost everything. And why would those players want to waste their time playing for like a losing team? They do have positives though. Kevin Porter Jr. is playing very well for them, which I'm a huge Kevin Porter Jr. fan. Who else is playing? Jay Sean Tate's playing well for them. Obviously Christian Wood he got injured. Very sad. Love Christian Wood.
He's
But
back. He's been playing for a little.
Oh, he is? Okay, cool.
He's still
So,
playing good too.
yeah. So but besides that, like the Rockets, they lost their star player. They have a bunch of young players, and like I guess they're moving to tank because they don't have anything. So I think the Rockets losing Oladipo just proved that they're just the biggest losers, or Houston just a joke, and they're just losers. I don't know what else to say. They don't do anything good.
I saw this thing on I think like ESPN posted it. It was like, oh, what the Rockets got from the original James Harden trade. And it was like Kelly Olynyk, Avery Bradley, 20 games of Victor Oladipo, and then just like a bunch of picks. It's just like the final outcome is just so bad. I just can't believe they only got that for James Harden. Like like
I don't understand what they're doing. Like
yeah.
some like
Tanking,
a
I
bunch of
guess.
franchises. Like I can see what a bunch of franchises are doing, like what direction. I just don't like. Are they? I guess they're supposed to be tanking now. Like
That's
I don't.
what I think Houston's trying to figure out is their exact direction. I mean, they kind of realistically they kind of got forced to go into a rebuild. I mean, after you deal Chris Paul to get Westbrook, doesn't work out. You deal Westbrook, you deal Harden. Like they haven't been able to figure out the superstars they had available to them, so they're kind of being forced into that tank and rebuild. But it seems like they almost like didn't want to accept that fate right away. Like they had a tough time swallowing the pill of heading in that direction. Now I think with these moves, they kind of did head in that direction. Didn't really get what they should have for all their players. I think I don't know how to exactly describe it. I feel like they could have almost tried to get more assets to get a true direction. But I feel like it's kind of like transitioning from that, like accepting that you have to enter that phase. Because obviously no team really wants to do that. Like you're a coach, you're an owner, like you don't want to sit there and be like, wow, we're going to be absolutely terrible for the next couple of years. But like you have to accept it and you have to commit to it. Because if you don't commit to it, then you get stuck in that obviously dreaded middle of the NBA where you don't do anything in the season, but you don't get a high draft pick or assets. You know what I mean? So, I mean, I think it's just kind of that middle phase of figuring out exactly how they want to approach their next era.
Personally, I think that they're one of the worst front offices in the league right now.
I agree
I
with
think
that 100%.
I think if they're not willing to accept that they're tanking right now, then they're just dumb. They're on a 20+ game losing streak. You're tanking.
I think
whether
a couple
you like
nights
it or
ended,
not.
but yeah.
They ended it at a couple. Okay, you were just on a 20+ game losing streak. If you're not willing to accept your team sucks and we need to tank and get as many draft picks as possible, then you're not a good GM or front office or anything. Like they got absolutely finessed on Victor Oladipo, and they really weren't. They got a swappable pick with the Heat. That's it, really. Like Olynyk and Avery Bradley aren't a part of your future long term. So like, why go out and get them? Like if if they haven't accepted that they're tanking and are looking and are trying to acquire draft picks and stuff like that with the very few assets that they do have right now, then they're one of the dumbest front offices in the league.
Well, I agree with that. I feel like it's kind of just been like forced on them. Like to go into a rebuild, you almost have to do like what the Celtics did, not to toot their horn or anything, but realistically, they knew time was up and they went out and they just shopped Paul Pierce, Kevin Garnett, and Jason Terry, I believe it was. And they started dumping everyone for assets. They accepted the direction they had to go in and they went all in on it. And it's something that, like, you know, a lot of teams obviously do. Houston kind of didn't want to do it, I feel. Like they still wanted to try to go. I mean, they went out and got John Wall in the trade. They were hoping that would work out. They didn't they get DeMarcus Cousins also at one point?
They like
still have it,
re-signed
right?
him.
Just
No,
really
he's gone.
He's gone now? Okay. Well, either way,
Released.
they were trying to get names to like try to keep things up on the rise. They didn't really accept it. Now, as one thing after another fails, it kind of like it's forced them into this situation. And that's not good because, like I said, if they had that mindset right from the beginning, they could have tried to acquire assets instead of half decent players that they were hoping would turn out to be stars, which is where I think they went wrong because they didn't want to commit fully to it right away.
But I mean, they're halfway through an NBA season, and you haven't accepted a tank yet. And
Hey, I'm with
the
you.
the assets you have just continue to get worse. And as a front office, that can't happen when your team already stinks.
I agree 100%. I think they dropped
Yeah,
the ball on this one. I'm just saying
I know it's been
trying to get
forced
what
on
the
them,
mindset was of the Rockets making these moves.
but for a good portion of the offseason and like the beginning of the season, they knew that Russell Westbrook and James Harden didn't want to be there. So it's like, okay, let's accept that and we got to move on. And the fact that they didn't move on is really bad for their future.
At first, Russell Westbrook wanted out. Correct me if I'm wrong here, but Russell Westbrook wanted out. And then there was a report that James Harden like even said he preferred to play with Wall over Westbrook. So you get John Wall in town. And then it was like right after that, Westbrook decided, or Harden decided, like, no, that's not what I want. So it's like, was that like a motivating thing? Did James Harden's influence like have something to do with the fact that they chased John Wall as opposed to chasing future assets? It's kind of like a who knows. But that's obviously, I think, the start of where this all went wrong.
Kevin Durant was also a huge reason why Harden wanted to leave because he obviously I like they didn't make it public, but I think that like Kevin Durant like persuaded Harden like, hey, like let's like form this like nice ass super team to dominate the league basically with me, you, and Kyrie. James James Harden, right now James Harden's playing out of his mind. He's climbing the MVP ladder. But Houston like John like obviously like John Wall like coming to Houston like James Harden thought like yeah like we'd like be like a playoff team like somewhat good. I don't know what, but I don't know. It's like I guess Durant like influenced him, and obviously Houston just like couldn't do anything about that, so they got rid of him. But yeah, Houston should do what the Pistons are doing right now. So the Pistons, as you know, they're tanking obviously, but they're playing these like basically no name players a lot of minutes and like getting their productivity good so they can trade them away and get like picks and assets and stuff like that. So for example, DeLon Wright, they just traded him away, got like someone in like a pick, which like okay, like DeLon Wright's like a nobody, and like they're getting value out of him. So I think that's what Houston should do. I don't know if they're doing that. Like Jay Sean Payton. I didn't even know who that was.
Yeah.
But dude's playing very well. They should trade him. He can probably get like a first round pick or something like good like that.
Something.
Yeah. So yeah, Houston. That's all I gotta say. Houston's just crazy, bro. I don't know. Poor team. All right, we got anything else to say about losers, Rockets, anything?
You know, I just think it's crazy how the Rockets could have had Karis LeVert and Jared Allen, but instead they went with Oladipo, who I'm pretty sure the whole world knew that he wanted to go to Miami, and he still ended up there.
Yeah.
They got finessed.
Oh yes.
Poverty franchise.
The real question is which franchise has been worse? The Houston Rockets or Mr. Dermickey's Detroit Pistons?
What do you mean?
Which organization's being more poorly ran, the Pistons or the Rockets?
The Rockets.
But yeah,
Bro,
definitely.
Bro, we're
The
tanking. What do you
Rockets.
mean? How are we poorly ran?
Yeah. The Pistons have a direction, and the Rockets have just been slowly getting
Trash.
worse with the
Wild to
assets
get
that
that
they have.
direction. I agree with you guys though, but
But the Pistons are still a poverty franchise. Don't
Hey,
get me wrong.
Whoa.
Yes.
Compared to other franchises, no.
I just like any opportunity to
Phil, they're last in
claim
the
that the
East.
We have
Pistons.
championships, bro. That's all I gotta say.
Right now, they're a poverty franchise.
I mean, yeah, you can say that about like franchises right now.
Yeah. That's what
I mean-
poverty means.
I mean, a
Like lot of teams are in
this
poverty.
year,
and then as you
yeah,
get up,
sure.
there's a lesser amount of teams. Yeah.
I mean, every team probably ever was a poverty franchise at some point.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah, we're poverty. Sure. Okay. I mean, personally, I think poverty means like their whole existence is like either poverty or not poverty.
Oh, in and
I
out
don't-
of
I
poverty
don't-
anytime.
I don't reference a single season as a poverty franchise,
That's true. You can go bankrupt at any point, Phil.
but hey, if you think so, bro.
To clear it up, historically, the Pistons are not a poverty franchise. They're a very good franchise historically, but right now they are a poverty franchise.
Agreed. Historically, a lot of teams are way worse than them, like the Charlotte
Oh.
Hornets,
Oh yes.
Timberwolves.
the Kings.
Yes. The Timberwolves are the
God.
definition of a poverty franchise for their entire
All right.
lives.
Imagine not letting Kevin Garnett own your team.
Play the
We're
most
getting
relevant player they've had.
Or retire his
very,
number.
very.
Or
soft
just
facts.
retire his number.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know that.
Oh man.
All right. So that's all we have for today. We talked about trade deadline and the Brooklyn Nets. Let us know if you want to talk more about like say we're like the Timberwolves and like poverty franchise. We can talk about basically whatever y'all want. Let us know down below. Don't forget to please like, subscribe, share with everyone. Try and make us blow up. All of us love doing this. We love talking sports. We're huge sports guys. So yeah, thank you so much for watching. And yeah, we'll see you next time.